This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website or online store, make it with Squarespace.
You should have gone for the head.
There was an idea to bring together a group of remarkable filmmakers so that when we needed them, they could bring us the movies that Fox and Sony never could. Before Gunn, before the Russos, before Whedon, before any of them, there was a Favreau. In the summer of 2008, comic book movies came in all different shapes and sizes, from the criminally underrated Hellboy 2: The Golden Army to The Dark Knight, which really needs no fanfare at this point, it's the Dark Knight. But one comic book movie which was well received at the time, but I think has come to mean more and more for the genre with every passing year, is Iron Man. The Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it today is a huge billion-dollar franchise that sees everyone from talking raccoons to sorcerer supremes dabbling in everything from time travel to cosmic catastrophes. But back in 2008 it all kicked off with just a man in a can, battling personal demons and another larger man in a larger can. That sentence sounded better at the start. Tony Stark was a very interesting choice of character to kick off a franchise, let alone spin-offs with other superheroes and big interconnected team-up movies. He was in a bit of an older age range compared to the superheroes we'd seen so far in the 2000s. Most big screen superheroes of the 2000s' moral ambiguity was rooted in their vigilanteism, but Tony Stark is a bit more complicated than that. He's an arms dealer, a member of the wealthy elite, a playboy. He's a far cry from the underdogs like Peter Parker or the persecuted like the X-Men, which film audiences had already come to know and love. If the newly formed Marvel Studios were going to make this movie work, they were going to have to make us fall in love with the character, show us what really lies at the heart of his story, and leave enough potential to expand the mythos into something as awe-inspiring as what audiences had come to expect, whilst also bringing something fresh and new to the table. On the 28th of April 2006, Marvel announced they had hired Jon Favreau to direct the movie. The guy that partied in Vegas with Vince Vaughn and made Will Ferrell eat used chewing gum? That really happened, by the way, it's not a prop. Jon Favreau is just a monster.
I've never made a movie of this size before or of this genre. I've always been a fan, but it's a daunting undertaking.
Favreau knew that they really had to knock it out of the park with Iron Man if it was going to carry any of the studio's tentative plans for the Avengers movie, due to be released in 2011. That's not a mistake, by the way, before you rush to the comment section. The movie was originally scheduled for 2011. Favreau injected the movie with the same heart and keen focus on characterization that made movies like Elf so warm and enjoyable. You know, before Favreau was on board, there was a time when Nick Cassavetes was due to direct the movie for New Line? That name rings a bell. What did he do? Oh god, holy f***, we dodged some bullets there. But the movie wouldn't have worked without one key ingredient.
The day I knew everything was going to be okay was the day that Robert Downey Jr. was attached to play Iron Man.
The reason that I'm involved in Iron Man, the reason that I'm so excited is I'm crazy about movies. That's why I wanted to become an actor.
Downey Jr. wasn't the household name he is today back in 2008. He was more known for doing time, having past substance abuse problems, and being fired from Ally McBeal. But oh boy, what a meteoric rise out of the ashes he made becoming Tony Stark.
I thought if I'm ever going to do a movie like this, I've got to do it quick before it's not embarrassing.
It's a bit weird listening to that now, eh? In fact, Favreau cast Downey with those past transgressions in mind. The best and worst moments of Robert's life have been in the public eye. He had to find an inner balance to overcome obstacles that went far beyond his career. That's Tony Stark. Inner balance. You could say he had to find a perfect balance, as all things should be? Favreau faced opposition from Marvel when casting Downey, but he reportedly wouldn't take no for an answer. It was my job as a director to show that it was the best choice creatively. Everybody knew he was talented, and certainly by studying the Iron Man role and developing that script, I realised that the character seemed to line up with Robert in all the good and bad ways. If Jon Favreau hadn't been at the helm, every single incredible moment with Iron Man in the MCU might not have been the same. Downey's Stark is a tour de force of charm, wit and style, but you can also crucially take a step back as an audience and see what a self-absorbed douchebag he is. When he begins a redemptive journey and seeks to help the people he's hurt over the years, the change is subtle. He's still snarky and unashamedly himself, but there's this nice air of determination. Tony has found a purpose and a restored passion to do something with his gifts. Watching him build and develop the armour in this movie is really neat. It's something that we naturally get less and less of as the movies progress, and they have bigger fish to fry, but it's super charming to see the guy who would one day throw everything at Thanos getting stunned by his own repulsors.
I didn't expect that.
By the time we get to Infinity War, Tony Stark has become an obsessive.
Thanos has been inside my head for 6 years, since he sent an army to New York, and now he's back.
He's done a whole host of questionable things in the name of the greater good. This obsessive nature is seeded all the way back in the first movie.
There's the next mission, and nothing else. I shouldn't be alive. Unless it was for a reason. And I know in my heart that it's right.
It informs every appearance from the Armoured Avenger. We see a window into his thinking and how he can justify the worst actions. But how could Favreau and the team handle practical effects? I've always been very reticent to use CGI to the extent that it has been used by other filmmakers. I think that now, through motion capture and the integration of miniatures with CGI, like in King Kong, I'm starting to be a lot more convinced by what the technology can do. But the idea of using CGI and relying solely on that to tell your story, those days are past. I think that integrating practical filmmaking and augmenting it with CGI is the key to making it an emotionally involved story. This thinking would turn out to be the perfect mantra when tackling the Armoured Avengers' first ever outfits on screen. The Iron Man suit is probably one of the hardest comic book costumes to put to screen, and not just because of the huge technical process that would have to go into making audiences believe it was a real piece of technology. Iron Man's costume is his superpower. It's more than just a cool look to translate from page to screen. The suit is the essence of what makes him special. It's the result of Tony's genius, his initiative to help others, to do the right thing, to be a warrior, and a hero. Every iteration of the suit has to reflect that, and the first suits the audience will ever see are surely the most important. Both the Mark I, Mark II and Mark III had to be iconic, intimidating, unique and unequivocally Tony Stark. So it's no wonder they brought in Stan Winston Studios, at the time still headed up by the late great man himself, to create the practical suits, whilst Industrial Light and Magic took care of the CGI versions. With the incredible visionaries behind countless iconic movie special effects outfits and creatures, including RoboCop, the Predator and the Xenomorph, as well as the company behind everything from the Millennium Falcon to Optimus Prime, Jon Favreau had the best possible team to bring the Iron Man armour to life. The supporting characters around Tony are all pretty great. Pepper Potts is a bad motherfucker in this movie.
I do anything and everything that Mr. Stark requires, including occasionally taking out the trash. Will that be all?
The relationship in this one gives the movie a lot of warmth, and it lays the groundwork for how to get these interactions right across the entire MCU going forward. In particular, the way Tony and Pepper clearly have a thing for each other, but Tony isn't quite emotionally mature yet, is the same basic principle behind Gamora and Peter's continuing relationship. He's not the committed guy we find in the later movies. In this one, he is actually a playboy. Even more platonic connections like that of Nat and Steve in The Winter Soldier evoke the sassy rapport between Pepper and Tony.
And we're borrowing. Take your feet off the dash.
I actually don't think that you could tie your shoes without me.
I'd make it a week.
Agent Coulson ended up being the essential glue that tied Phase 1 together, and his stoic to-the-point manner in Iron Man is a great contrast to the mugging banter of the lead.
Oh, wow, what's that? It's like a little device? It's like a thing that's gonna pick the lock?
You might want to take a few steps back.
I've got to be honest here, I think they really milked Coulson in the MCU. Not like they milked him like this is a milk thing where I'm like, way, it's milk, which means it's f***ing awesome. No, I mean like how mortals use the term milked, when something is overused past the point where it should be ever used again and you end up hating it. Rhodey doesn't have an awful lot to do in the movie, but they share some fun exchanges. I like how he's constantly being exasperated by Tony's behaviour, but you know deep down he probably loves it. It's a shame we never got to see any more of Terrence Howard, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Next time, baby. 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 Next time, baby.
Tell you what, throw a little Hot Rod Red in there.
Yes, that should help you keep a low profile.
Jarvis was a really interesting creation for the movie. Rather than giving Tony a butler, Favreau and Marvel opted to avoid any unwanted comparisons to that other billionaire superhero and chose to make him an AI instead. Jarvis, or just a rather very intelligent system, yes that is actually what it stands for, is a brilliant way to update Tony Stark for the 21st century. Their banter is really fun to watch, but it also brings an added dimension to the Iron Man mythos itself. Tony could have controlled the suit by himself, or the suit could have had an emotionless, dry computer voice.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
But Jarvis is witty, funny, and shows genuine concern for Tony.
The render is complete.
A little ostentatious, don't you think?
What was I thinking? You're usually so discreet.
He's a keen tactical ally, and the pair feel like a great buddy cop duo. I especially like how Jarvis doesn't blindly do what Tony says, and challenges things he calculates will end in failure.
Take me to maximum altitude.
With only 15% power, the odds of reaching that are...
I know the math! Do it!
Cap has his Falcon or his Bucky, but when I think of Iron Man's right-hand man, I think of Jarvis. Sorry, Rhodey.
Next time, baby.
Also, I have no proof, and this is literally just to stroke my ego, but Jarvis eventually becoming the MCU's Vision, I fucking called that shit back in 2008, I am telling you. The cave sequence is excellent. It's full of tension as the suit boots up whilst the Ten Rings are trying to smash their way through. It's got laughs, and it's got heartbreaking surprises.
My family's dead. I'm going to see them now, Stark.
Yinsen and Tony's final exchange is sad, cathartic, rousing, and it pinpoints the second Tony becomes Iron Man.
Don't waste it. Don't waste your life.
This was about escaping to save himself. Now it's about escaping to start saving others. And that's exactly what he does. As Uncle Ben's go, Yinsen is one of the best.
Really the only true misstep in the entire movie is the final battle. Obadiah Stane has all the potential to be a great villain, but his journey to becoming the Ironmonger is clearly rushed so that the movie can deliver an exosuit v exosuit final battle. Having said that, Favreau still manages to inject some nice tension in the finale after Obadiah steals Tony's functioning arc reactor and he has to end up powering the Mark III with his original faulty one. This results in the armour slowly losing power as the fight continues, meaning that Tony has got to not only beat a villain that dwarfs him, but do it in a race against time before the suit completely fails. Oh, and the only other misstep is that obviously dated MySpace reference.
I don't want to see this on your MySpace page.
My god, is this movie over a decade old? Where is my life going?
The Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and to a lesser extent Thor Ragnarok, are known for their neat way of incorporating popular catchy tracks into their narratives, and ended up creating some of the most iconic MCU movie moments in the process, so it can be easy to forget that Iron Man laid the groundwork for doing that. The original score is great too though. It might be partly to do with the fact that when I was 12 I probably watched this movie on repeat so much it was permanently ingrained on my retinas, but tracks like Driving with the Top Down are utterly fantastic, and kind of memorable. Using tracks from bands like AC/DC and Black Sabbath really helps to give the film a distinct swagger, and whilst that moment in Ragnarok is cool, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's got anything on the track drop in this scene.
I am Iron Man.
It's widely known that Downey improvised this line, which is awesome, but it's also awesome that Kevin Feige himself wanted to run with this. It ended up informing the apparent lack of secret identities in the formative years of the MCU, which was a real breath of fresh air at the time for comic book movies. It also goes to show that Mr. Feige has of course always been a key player behind the scenes, guiding these movies to be the best they can absolutely be. There's a lot more I could say on the guy, but I think he deserves his own video if I'm being honest.
Marvel Studios' Iron Man, would be the marquee name, allowed us to say, let's just cast the best actor we can find.
The final cherry on top is, of course, that Nick Fury cameo.
Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet.
This post-credits scene not only served as a promise of what was to come, but it also taught us all to keep our bums in our seats as the credits to any MCU movie rolls, knowing we would get something awesome like Thor's hammer being revealed, or the first appearance of Thanos. Iron Man was impressive in 2008 when it released amongst a really strong year for comic book movies collectively. But Iron Man is also even more impressive now that we can look back on it almost 11 years later and see everything that it came to spark. Does anyone else remember the announcement in 2006 that Marvel and Paramount would be teaming up to bring audiences solo movies on the Avengers? Not the X-Men, or the Fantastic Four, or Spider-Man. Marvel didn't own any of those characters, no. The Avengers were all they had. Not the household names they are today back in 2008. It would have seemed a gamble to produce a movie on any one of these characters, let alone several of them. Iron Man was the first production from the newly formed Marvel Studios. With Avengers Endgame just over the horizon, Tony Stark himself laments on the story that made him all those years ago, again stuck in a cave of sorts, a prison to test his will and his strength. And just as it was satisfying to see him break out of that cave and become Iron Man for the very first time, it will be just as satisfying, if not more so, to see him break out of this cave and become Iron Man one last time.
Tony Stark may have built his first Iron Man suit in a cave with a box of scraps, but you can be anywhere in the world and start building a high quality website immediately with Squarespace. There's loads of cool templates available to get you started, and Squarespace are continually updating the templates on offer, so it's only a matter of time before you find something you like. If you've found other website building platforms complicated in the past, then Squarespace will be revelatory for you. Its simple interface allows you to start working immediately with no hassle, and if you're ever stuck, you can always contact Squarespace's award-winning 24/7 customer support. If all of this sounds amazing, then get ready for some more good news, as we can get you a 10% discount, the details of which are in the description. Just head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you've set everything up, go to squarespace.com/fullfat to save 10% off your first purchase. And remember, stay milky.
So, we didn't think we'd be doing this, but someone has actually donated $100, which is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Chike.
Honestly, that's awesome. You are, as we said in our Patreon video, literally keeping the lights on. So, no, but seriously, thank you very much. And,
yeah, we're just sort of in shock, aren't we?
Full Fat Videos is going to strange new places. Full Fat Videos just got upgraded, and along with that, we're upgrading our Patreon with new tiers and rewards just for you. Patreon could really help us make Full Fat Videos self-sustaining, and it'll allow us to make better videos and better content for you. For just $1 a month, you'd be helping us out a great deal already, which is why we thank you at the end of every video. Not to mention, you'd get exclusive access to Full Fat Milk Posting, a Facebook group where you can talk to us about movies, TV and games, as well as some memes. We like a bit of memes.
For $3, you'll get access to everything from the previous tiers, but you'll also get the chance to watch our videos one day early, as well as get access to exclusive scripts and bloopers.
For just $5 a month, you'll get access to everything from all the other tiers, as well as exclusive access to ask the questions for our monthly Q&As.
And that's not all. For just $10, you'll get access to all of the above, as well as an exclusive commentary track picked by you.
For $100, I mean, you'd be keeping the lights on, so we'd really appreciate it, and we'd probably thank you at the end of every video on camera. You'd be really helping us in any way, shape or form if you could consider contributing to our Patreon. We love making this stuff for you guys, and we'd love to keep making more of it. So thank you, and thank you for watching. We're off to go make some more of that juicy content. We'll see you next time. Stay milky.